heading today, ladies and gentlemen, kids of all you, is making equal fractions. It seems to me like we've done this, but you know, we've done this a lot of times. With a lot of different groups, so equal fractions. Let's just take, for example, our favorite fraction of all, which is 1/2. You know that if you eat a half of a pizza, you've eaten quite a bit of pizza, right? Depending on how big the pizza is to start with. But generally, when the pizza people throw you the pizza, they don't just cut it into 2 pieces, because I don't know why. They usually cut it into 8 pieces. Well, if you cut a pizza into 8 pieces and you ate half of the pizza, you ended up eating how many pieces, Grace? 4, yeah. But the pizza place could have cut the pizza into 10 pieces, in which case you'd have eaten how many, Alexa? 5. Or maybe they could have just cut it into 4 pieces, in which case you would have only eaten 2 of them. Okay, which just goes kind of to show that for any fraction, you can make a million, a bazillion, an infinite amount of other fractions that are completely equal to it. Okay? There are an infinite number of fractions equal to any fraction. There are infinite, one of my favorite words of all time. Infinite means forever, goes on forever. There are infinite number of fractions equal to any fraction. Well, let's say though, you only ate 1/4 of a pizza. What fractions, can you tell me what fractions would be also equal to 1/4 besides 1/4? Well, again, maybe, just maybe, the pizza place cut it into 8 equal pieces. How many pieces? In order for you to eat a quarter of a pizza that was cut into 8 pieces, how many would you have to eat, Calvin? 2. Okay. Or what if this thing was cut into 16 pieces? Now it starts to get a little harder at this point. What would it be? Alexa?
8.
No, 8 would be half. 8 over 16 is half. Michael? 4. Now how did you know that, Michael?
Because 4 is 16.
Sure. 8 times 2 is 62, but I had to put an 8 up there. But make it Grace?
Because if 8 is half of 16, half of 8 is 4, so that would be 1/4 of 16.
Sure. I guess Grace said this. If you take 16, cut it in half, you get 8. And if you take half of that half, you get a quarter, and half of that 8 is it. Now, an easy way to do this, kids, because we don't want to have to think about this, is simply this. Okay, write this down. You can make, here's the most important thing, you can make equal fractions to any fraction by multiplying both top and bottom of the fraction by the same number. Give you a chance to write that down, and then I'll tell you exactly what that means. Oh, Eli, how come we're not at the front room? You want to sit right here for a while? Will that help you? Well, it sure won't hurt you, at least for the note-taking portion, then you can move back. Okay? In other words, this. Let me show you back with the one we just did here. We know that 1/4 equals 4/16. Well, what you'll find out with fractions here is simply this, children. You can always make equal fractions by doing this. Okay? What do I multiply 4 by to get 16? What times 4 is 16? 4. Okay, if I multiply the bottom by 4, to get an equal fraction to 1/4, I have to multiply the top by the same number. 1 times 4 is 4. Okay? Or if I wanted to do this, I could take 1/4 and multiply both the top and the bottom by, let's just say, 8, and I am going to get an equal fraction to 1/4. 1 times 8 is 8, and 4 times 8 is 32. 8 32nds is equal to 1/4. If you got a pizza, cut it into 32 equal pieces, you ate 8 of them, it's just like eating 1/4. Okay? Anybody know why that works? Or why that is? Peter?
Because you're smart.
Because you are smart and you know how. Well, let me just ask you this, kids. Let me rewrite this like this. 1/4 times 8 over 8 equals 8 over 32. Okay? 8 over 8 as a fraction is the same exact thing as what number? 1. And what happens when you multiply 1 by something? It stays the same. 8 times 1 is 8. 15 times 1 is 15. So when I multiply 1/4 by 1, I don't change it other than the numbers. These two things mean the same thing. The only thing I've changed is the numbers that I use to show it there. Okay? And that's why the book actually calls this making equal fractions by multiplying by 1. Okay? And any fraction that you can make a 1, you can multiply a fraction by. For example, if I have 3/5, if I multiply this by 6 over 6, I'm going to get a fraction that is the same exact thing as 3/5. It's just going to be using bigger numbers. What is 3 times 6? 18. What's 5 times 6? 30. This fraction is the same as that fraction. Means the same thing, it just uses bigger digits. Now in math, okay, when we write fractions down, we always want to use the smallest one, because this is a lot easier for us to understand than this. If you ate 3/5 of a pizza, that's easier for me to picture than you eat 18 out of 30 pieces. Okay, so we always go with the smallest one, but sometimes we want to do bigger ones. Now here's what the book is going to do. So here's what you've got to be able to figure out here. They are going to give you a problem that looks like this. 1/3 equals what number over 9? Okay, and to figure that out, this is what you need to do. You just have to ask yourself, what do I multiply 3 by to get 9? What times 3 is 9, Jacob? 3, and whatever that number is, you need to multiply the top by the same exact thing. That's the number that will go up top. Okay, whatever you multiply the bottom by, you multiply the top by. Whatever you multiply the top by, you multiply the bottom by. Another example, how about this one? 3 over 5 equals what number over 10? And when you do this, ladies and gentlemen, here, you're focused up here because I don't want to have to shun any other people here. If this is the problem in your book, this is what I want to see on your paper. I don't want just the answer. I want you to write the problem down, and I very much want to see the arrow, which says this. What times 5 is 10? 2. So you then just multiply 3 times 2 to get 6. That's what I want to see on your paper. Shall I highlight it any more than this? Okay. Let me give you a couple and see if you can do these. Let's try a little harder one. 7/8 equals what number over 32? 7 over 8 equals what number over 32? Again, you just have to think about what times what gives you. Michael.
28.
Very good, because 8 times 4 is 32, 7 times 4 is 28. Pretty simple little process there. Now I do want you to open your book to page 513, because I don't want you to be scared and frightened when you see this problem. Which is 3/4 times plus minus 1. If you look in your book, problem letter A looks a little like this. I did my best to write it like they do in the book there. Again, the book is just trying to help you make the connection that what fraction here that is the same as 1 do you multiply 3/4 by to get 9/12. That's all they're trying to do is get you to see that that fraction. So you know one thing, that fraction has to be the same number over the same number, because that's the only way for a fraction to be equal to 1. And you do it just the way we did that. You say, okay, what times this gives me this? What am I multiplying 4 by to get 12 or 3 by to get 9? Alexa says, well, 3/3. They want the fraction. That fraction that equals 1 is what we multiply this by to get that, so that they're equal. Okay?